This is Geeks Unleashed, episode 13. Hello, welcome to Geeks Unleashed, episode 13. I'm Mark.
And I'm Jasmine.
Each week we cover the news of the week and we pick a couple of things to review that caught our fancy in TV, comics, games, movies. And this week's reviews are DC's movie, Superman Man of Tomorrow, and DC's Batman, The Three Jokers, issue 1.
And spoiler warning, this is a review show, so if you have not had a chance to watch Superman Man of Tomorrow or read Batman, The Three Jokers, then you might want to pause this and come back when you have. And then at the very end, we'll give you a couple of recommendations of our own.
Thank you very much. So this week's first news, I think, caught everybody off guard.
Absolutely. It was, unfortunately, Chadwick Boseman, the actor who plays, most famously known for playing T'Challa, Black Panther, passed away on Saturday, August 29th. He had colon cancer. He was diagnosed back in 2016. So he'd been fighting it for 4 years. No one knew except for his family, because the entire world was 100% shocked at his death. Chadwick was not very old. He was 43. Still had a lot of career ahead of him if his current slate of films was any indication. Got his big start back in 2009. He did a lot of TV. First major TV role was on a series called Lincoln Heights. After that, he did a bit more TV. Then his breakout film role came in 2013 when he played the baseball icon Jackie Robinson in 42. After that, he took on another icon, played James Brown in Get On Up in 2014. And in 2016, I'm sure his life changed both in great and amazing ways and in awful, unfortunate ways, because 2016 was his debut into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. 2016 was also the year that he was diagnosed with colon cancer. And between 2016 and the time of his death, he gave us quite a large filmography, from things like Marshall, Black Panther, Avengers, to Spike Lee's Da 5 Bloods. All of those things happened to come out after he had been diagnosed with cancer. And again, unfortunately, he lost that fight just recently. So Chadwick Boseman passes away at 43 years old. Ugh, it's rough. That's a hard loss for sure, because it's so sudden and just because cancer is so ugly.
Yeah, it took me back. I read it just before I was going to bed. Obviously there was like no one awake when I read it, so I was like, I thought, this can't be real. Like, that's, I think, my initial reaction when I saw the headline. I was like, no, this can't be real. Like, and yeah, when I read, and then I read the article that I read, and I was like, no way. I was like, 43 years old, I had cancer for 4 years, and I was amazed by just his ability to carry on working and carry on. Like, I mean, if you look at any picture of him, he's laughing. Like, when he's not acting, he's laughing, he's smiling, he's I think I saw a few pictures of that again in the last 4 years of him going to see people in hospital. Mm-hmm. Obviously people wanted to meet if they were a fan of him, and he made sort of appearances and things like that. And I just thought, that's like a real hero there. That's like someone who's put his pain and suffering aside for everybody.
Right. And I mean, quite literally kept it to himself, and then and never centered himself in those kinds of conversations or anything like that. He always put the emphasis back on to those kids at the hospitals and the people that were kind of helping to keep them going.
And I sort of have to admire him, really, like how dedicated he's been to acting, and how hard he's worked for maintaining his healthy body sorry, I keep trying to be healthy. Like, he would have had to have worked really hard in movies like Black Panther. That is a really, it's a very sort of energetic movie. He would have had to have done a lot of work on himself, while still, suffering from cancer and having chemotherapy. He would have still been having to push his body to act and put himself through those quite strenuously difficult roles on his body. They would be difficult anyway for any human, to have to go through probably quite harsh workout regimes, and probably would have had nutritional experts giving him diet for what would have been to be in that kind of tip-top shape, whilst juggling, like you say, cancer obviously is such an ugly and horrible disease, and I'm sure we all know someone that close to home has been affected by that. And just took me back, and when I woke up in the morning, as I was literally waking up, my wife just read the news going, oh my God, Chadwick Boseman's died. And I was like, yeah, I saw it before I came to bed, and I didn't want to say anything. And she was already asleep, but I didn't want to wake her up. And it just, sort of took me back. I felt quite sad, for most of the day, really, just how young he is. And I'm 39 years old, so there's hardly any difference in our ages. And,
I think that's probably what got me too. It's like he was diagnosed at 39. I'm not far from 39, and it's scary because I'm sure he, he's finally at the point where his career is taking off. Like, you've worked so hard for this. You put in the work in college. You put in your dues to do all of these bit parts on TV shows and smaller films. And now you're sort of ascending, and you're at the height of your career. And then you get some news like that. I can't even imagine what that's like.
Yeah. No, I don't know. Yeah, I've seen him in a few bit parts before this, but obviously Black Panther had really put his name up there. And he even had movies plotted years ahead. I can imagine that he was mentally driven to try and beat this. He wasn't giving in. He wasn't, he had roles lined up for the next few years to carry on going. So,
right.
So obviously it's extremely sad news, and obviously, give my blessings to his family, and hopefully get through this extremely tough time. So.
Yeah, it's a rough one. I think it hit a lot of people really hard just because it was so very sudden. It's a tough loss because in addition to what he's already given, you could see that he was getting better and better and better with each kind of performance that he gave. So it feels like, we didn't get to see the best he still had yet to come. So,
I can imagine if he'd been here another 30, 40 years, what he would have achieved.
Yeah.
So
that's rough. Yeah. Very rough.
Okay. I mean, it's difficult to try and move on from something like that, but obviously there's other things that we had planned to cover, and it is extremely sad, and obviously we give our blessings to his family and friends and in this tough time, and even those people that are affected, who are fans of his. I mean, I've seen massive outpourings online, so it's obviously touched a lot of people. So well, we will move across to our mainly DC field show now. So DC Fandome had a massive online virtual Comic-Con
24-hour event.
Yeah. I read actually that DC actually sent out even green screens to people that are in it, instructions on how to do it. They really wanted to go all out to make this a big event.
Yeah.
So
I've heard mixed reviews. I watched a couple of hours of it. Well, probably maybe a little bit more than a couple of hours. I think they had sort of an 8-hour chunk, and then they just kind of reran that same 8-hour chunk two more times. But I thought it's like you said, everything was really cohesive. They had this massive 3D stage, and they would just drop the presenters into the stage. But what was really cool was they planned it well enough that like if one presenter was talking to another presenter, now they're not in the same space, but they're facing the same direction, they're looking at each other, they're like nodding and acknowledging, and it's like, are you talking to someone when you film this? Or like I thought the production value was very high for something that was done with everybody kind of doing their own footage and sending it in, I'm assuming.
DC haven't said how much this cost them, but they said it was a lot lower than it would have been had they have done it in real life.
In person,
Yeah.
Well, in person, you have to pay for all of those people to be there. So you got to pay for their entourages, you got to pay for the security, you have to pay appearance fees and this
hotels, flights,
Yeah, so I'm sure it was much cheaper just to kind of pay for someone's time instead of having to pay to actually accommodate them. But I enjoyed it. I thought it came across really well. All the transitions were pretty great, and some of the panels were actually really fun. Just kind of skipping around on the list. The Shazam panel, for example, it was super short. I want to say it was like 10 minutes long, if even. But it was just really cute because it started with Zachary Levi talking, and then slowly but surely, other characters from Shazam kind of jumped in. And then out of nowhere, Sinbad pops up, and you're just kind of like, whoa, what the hell's Sinbad doing here? So he's in the second one. And then finally at the end of the panel, they reveal the name of the sequel, which is going to be Shazam, Fury of the Gods. So that was a really cute thing. Then, man, the Suicide Squad panel was huge. There were so many friggin' people on that panel. It was hard to keep up with. But it was really fun. They started with playing some kind of like DC trivia game. James Gunn was sort of the game show host, and then all of the cast were all competing against each other for, points or whatever. But this cast is insane. I mean, the first movie was pretty big, but this movie it lost Will Smith when he pulled out, so there is no more Deadshot, but they brought in Idris Elba is going to be playing Bloodsport. John Cena is going to be playing Peacemaker. Let's see here. Oh, there's a guy called Polka Dot Man, which I had never even heard of this character before, but seeing the trailer, I honestly thought that character was in a mocap suit and that they just had not like green screened on the actual CGI. Because the suit looks like a mocap suit. It does not, to me, look like Polka Dot Man. But so we've got Polka Dot Man. They're bringing in Ratcatcher, King Shark, Weasel, Javelin, the Thinker. We've got the Mongol. You've got Soul. You've got Emilia Hardcore. You've got Luna. Oh man, it's just this cast is bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And
I couldn't believe, was it Peter Capaldi, obviously Doctor Who's going to be in The Thinker, Nathan Fillion, who I love from Firefly and The Rookie, and at the moment, as I've said before, I'm working my way through Queen of the South, Alice Braga. I couldn't believe she's going to be in it. And what I love, though, is that they are bringing probably back, 70-80% of the original cast from the last one, so I'm glad it's not a complete reboot. Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn is probably the best role she's ever played. I love Viola Davis in How to Get Away with Murder, and she's a great actress. So.
Yeah, I love her in everything. But most of the cast is coming back. Joel Kinnaman's coming back as Rick Flag. Jai Courtney's coming back as Captain Boomerang. So there's a lot of familiar faces, but there's also a ton of new faces, and it just looks like mayhem. I mean, I don't know of any other way to describe it. I
love that they've got King Shark. You say, there's so many little characters in there, like the Thinker and Ratcatcher and Weasel and stuff like that. But I mean, the fact that the Thinker is played by Peter Capaldi, he's obviously I know he's not up there with Margot Robbie level, but in terms of current, fame across movies, but Peter Capaldi is a big UK name, so I can't think it's going to be in a small role. I'd love to see how this is going to be juggled, this movie.
This massive cast.
Is he going to just what's he going to do, kill a lot of these people off? I don't know, or is it going to be
wait and see.
is it going to be so well done that he's can create so many spin-offs from this? Like, so, you know, I don't know if I'd want to see a Thinker or a Weasel or a Ratcatcher movie, but like, but yeah, no, I mean, I'm pretty impressed with the size of the cast. So
yeah, they also revealed the first trailer for Wonder Woman 84. This one finally kind of goes into a little bit more detail about Maxwell Lord. We get to see Cheetah in her cheetah form. It's kind of interesting. They don't specifically say, but they allude to where her powers came from, which could be some kind of ancient god, Urs Kartaga. So we'll see if that's actually the case. The implication is Urs because he's a plant god that could grant people's deepest desires.
Yeah. So
we'll see. It looks interesting. I'm glad we finally got to see Cheetah. Cheetah's one of my favorite villains. Like, as far as I loved Cheetah in Justice League, in the animated Justice Leagues that used to come on in the early 2000s. So it'll be cool to see Cheetah in live action. I'm excited about that part.
Yeah, I thought that trailer looked really good, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd seen this bit before in the previous trailer, but Wonder Woman who is swinging off the lightning bolt.
Yeah.
I know they showed it again, and they showed more detail of her in her full golden sort of winged armor.
Eagle armor, yeah.
The eagle armor, yeah. I'd say. Yeah, no, I thought the trailer looked really good. I'm more excited to see that movie now. So, yeah. The next thing that they obviously went through was, and they released the trailer for the Batman movie. That trailer was dark, like that.
But also like literally dark.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know. We have lighting. I mean, I don't know why the lighting can't be better.
Yeah, maybe once it's finished, maybe like.
Yeah, because I think he said they finished like 1/3 or 25% only before they had to shut everything down. So they don't have very much footage to work with, but they did put together a pretty cool trailer from what they did have.
Oh yeah, I really liked the trailer. It really felt like some sort of, I don't know, real dark 18, you know, or R-rated type crime noir. You know, it kind of felt like something that could be on par with Seven or something like that. It was.
Yeah, it's very moody.
Very moody, dark. I don't know how to else describe it really. It's just. It was definitely not going to be something you'd sit and watch with your children.
We see Catwoman. We hear the Riddler. You don't see Paul Dano, but we do hear him as the Riddler in some of the voiceover work. I can't remember if Penguin was in it or not. I don't think he was yet.
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I did think... what's his name?
Jeffrey Wright?
No. The actor who's going to play Batman. I've forgotten his name.
Oh, Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, Robert Pattinson. I thought he came across well in the trailer. And yeah. I mean, yeah. I think you've actually written a comment here. It's very similar to Batman Begins in terms of tone. It has that whole feel about it.
Yeah, it's definitely got the "I am not good at this yet" vibe. Like that's the vibe that the trailer gets. Like, he's getting used to the crime fighting, getting used to how it works, learning how to use his body to his advantage, and to start using his technology to his advantage. So, I mean, not that we need another origin story, but
they love origin stories, don't they?
Yeah. Of course. I mean, I'll see it when it's all said and done, but as far as being excited about it, I'm not excited yet, but it does look interesting.
I would personally rather have seen a Batman film with Ben Affleck. Yeah, I don't know. That's my thoughts. I'd rather have seen a Batfleck film. I know his heart wasn't in that role, but
but I mean, I get it. I get it.
And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe his heart not being in that role. Maybe that's a good thing why we're not getting that film. So maybe it's better to have someone whose heart's in that role.
So I mean, we'll see. I'll give our Pats a chance.
See how it turns out. No, I will give it a chance. I'll go and see this. So.
Yeah. Also, DC announced 2 more games. They've got a Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League game. That one is from Rocksteady Studios. And they've also got Batman Gotham Knights, which is from WB Interactive in Montreal. Both games let you choose between 4 characters. So in the Suicide Squad game, you can play either as Harley, King Shark, Boomerang, or Deadshot. And in the Gotham Knights game, you are playing as former heroes turned vigilantes. So you can either be Batgirl, Nightwing, Robin, or Red Hood. Both games allow either a single-player campaign. Yes, I love single-player games. Or you can do co-op. One cool thing about the Suicide Squad game is that you are not locked into the character that you choose at the beginning of the game. So as you progress through the Suicide Squad game, you can start off playing Harley Quinn, but then if you decide, you know what, I'd rather play Boomerang, you can switch without losing any of your game progress, and you can switch and play a different character. So you can kind of flip-flop between all the different characters as you play the game. Both of them look pretty cool.
They both trailers looked amazing for these games.
The Gotham Knights trailer caught my attention a lot more just because the 4 characters have completely different combat styles. So depending on how you like to play as a gamer, you know, if you played Batgirl has like grappling abilities where she can like hook onto things and climb and use her tools. If you play as Robin has a staff that he uses. He also has some kind of invisibility built into his suit that he can use. But the character that stood out the most to me in that game was Red Hood, mainly because he has 2 guns. And I do love shooters. Well, I love third-person shooters. So, Batman Gotham Knights definitely on my radar. I'll keep an eye on that one.
Oh, yeah, I thought both those games looked good. Like, really amazing. Like, just all these games that come out now look visually amazing, but they both look really visually amazing. I thought Harley Quinn looked just like Margot Robbie, so I'm disappointed it wasn't her voice. So, no, those games are really good. I would be up for playing both of those. So.
Yeah. Black Adam. There has been so much back and forth about Black Adam and The Rock's schedule and this, that, and the other. It's already been delayed a couple of times. However, they have not filmed any footage. So what they did show was all just sort of animation that they had come up with to go with the narrative of this trailer reveal. But they did say that Black Adam is set for a December 2021 release. We'll see if that holds. Supposedly, Black Adam is going to be going up against the JSA, so the Justice Society of America. So we're going a little bit earlier in the DC timeline. So they also will be introducing characters like Cyclone, Hawkman, Dr. Fate, and Atom Smasher. My question. Now, this is personal preference. I love Hawkgirl. She's one of my favorite characters in the DC realm. So I want to know, my personal question, if I had a chance to ask one, why Hawkman and not Hawkgirl? Like, why? How can you introduce one without the other? Because their fates are always tied. So, yeah. So, we'll see. I mean, it's hard to get excited about this movie. I mean, I love The Rock, and I will see it just because he's in it. But the trailer and the reveal didn't tell me anything about this film at all. So hard to be excited about it, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be good, but yeah. Actually, maybe I shouldn't say that. Like, maybe I shouldn't say I'm sure it'll be good. I don't know. The Rock.
You might get burned on that one.
Yeah, you might love everything The Rock's in, but then I don't love every DC movie, so we will see.
We'll see. And then, of course, in Snyder Cut news, they revealed it was like a supercut of the Snyder Cut version. And what HBO Max is doing, they're releasing it first in like a miniseries format. So they're doing 4-hour-long chunks of Justice League Snyder Cut. It said 2021, but they are not specific about when in 2021 this is going to be happening. And then once the miniseries, quote unquote, has finished, they will release the film in its full 3+ hour format. Okay. So There's a lot more footage in this cut of other people. So like there's a lot more footage of Victor Stone before he becomes Cyborg, which I'm super excited about because I really, really want to know more about that character. There's a bit more stuff on Flash. So it'll be interesting to see all of the parts that didn't quite make the theatrical cut. Was I one of those people that was clamoring for a Snyder cut? No, I was not. But now that it is happening, I would happily give my time to watch it.
I do think from what I've seen of the trailers, it does look better than what we previously had. But until we see the final version, I don't know. I didn't really. The Justice League movie was okay. Okay in parts.
The biggest miss for that movie was I can't even think of his name. The bad guy.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Crap. But anyway, like that it left that big of an impression. But like if he had not been 100% CGI, I think it would have turned out a lot better. But he was it was just, it's hard for me to get behind a film that has a bad villain.
Steppenwolf.
Thank you, Steppenwolf. Yeah. See, so memorable that I couldn't even remember the villain's name. Yeah, that was the absolute worst part of Justice League. The character development, the character interactions between the members of the Justice League, I really enjoyed, but I pretty much hated everything that involved Steppenwolf.
Yeah, I think as we said before, like there's just not enough build up. It was like we've said this a few times. DC wanted, Warner Brothers, DC, whatever, wanted Marvel, Disney level money now, rather than spending time developing it to get to that Marvel money. They wanted Marvel money today rather than Marvel money tomorrow. Where they should have built a franchise of 6 or 7 individual movies, a Cyborg movie, a Wonder Woman movie, Aquaman movie, and then throughout those movies they could have interlaced cameos of Steppenwolf, here and there, and built him up a little bit more to make it more interesting. Like, I know it would have been copying Marvel, but I mean, let's be honest, Marvel and DC copy each other and borrow from each other here and there in the comic book world. So why not borrow that model in the movie world? Hopefully the Snyder Cut will improve that movie, but I don't think they're going to use anything of that movie back into the
I don't think they will either.
I think this is almost going to be like a standalone project. So
yeah,
but then again, maybe if it's massively life changing, maybe they will use it. So let's see.
We'll see. 2021.
Yep.
And then the last bit of DC Fandome news was Static Shock. They are bringing the character back, getting a new comic. Potential film was teased on the panel. The panel included Jim Lee and a few of the publishers from Milestone Comics, which DC is reviving. And Milestone was kind of a big, important imprint because it was helmed by Black publishers. So it was one of the first, or the first rather, like sort of indie comics label that was Black owned. So bringing Milestone Comics back, and they're going to start releasing digital comics as early as September 2020. So we'll see if Static is one of those. But hey, I loved the Static Shock cartoon, and I think a Static Shock series on CW would be a perfect addition to that sort of TV realm that the CW has built up, the Arrowverse over there. My 2 cents. So
they could make it like a summer show, like a bit like Stargirl.
Yeah. But Static Shock was always such a fun character to me.
Yeah. They have been talk of, even before this event, of DC moving more of its lower tier characters onto digital. They obviously cancelled lots of characters like Batgirl and there's been talk. I remember Jim Lee he made an announcement before this about, we know that there's a fan base out there, but a lot of these books are barely breaking even. But they're probably barely breaking even in terms of paper, like obviously in the single issues that are coming out. So there's a lot of talk about them moving some of these characters to digital comics and maybe original graphic novels instead. So yeah, this is obviously the start of that. So,
and that pretty much wraps up DC fandom. Lots of goodies coming out of there, but we'll see how it all plays out.
Yeah. No, there's a lot coming out. A lot came out there. Some of it's very interesting. I'm obviously going to watch everything that they've said, and I'd like to play those games too. So.
Yeah.
Right, moving on to our next DC part of our podcast. This week's movie review is Superman, Man of Tomorrow.
Why are you here?
Why are you here, Kryptonian?
What did you say?
Of course, I never heard of no flying Kryptonian, but whatevs.
It's directed by Chris Palmer. It has quite an all-star voice cast. Darren Criss is Superman. Alexandra Daddario is Lois Lane. Zachary Quinto is Lex Luthor. Ike Amaldi is Martian Manhunter. Ryan Hurst plays Lobo. Brett Dalton plays Parasite. Neil Flynn is John Kent. And Bellamy Young is Martha Kent. So the movie itself is another origin movie for Clark Kent, who just starts at the Daily Planet as an intern. He hasn't even become a full-on fledged reporter. And Lois Lane and Clark obviously I would say they barely speak throughout the movie. There's sort of little interactions. There's nothing real romantic. It's very, very business. This does feel kind of almost like the first movie in a potential chain of movies, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. They spend a lot of time throughout the movie bringing Clark Kent, spend time sort of building the character of Clark Kent and showing his abilities before he becomes Superman. And even in his interactions where he uses his powers, he's kind of shoving on like a black hoodie and a pair of glasses,
aviator goggles.
That's it. Yeah, these aviator goggles, and they have little cryptic bits where they have Martian Manhunter, who's shapeshifted as a human, watching him from afar and things like that. And so the movie kind of kicks off really with Lois Lane taking down Lex Luthor straight away and gets him sent off to prison. And then Lobo rocks up out of nowhere. Lobo for me was the best part about this movie, hands down. Ryan Hurst Lobo. I thought Ryan Hurst was the best voice actor in this movie. That's my opinion. I thought his Lobo was brilliant when he rocked up. Just his whole charisma, the voice acting charisma that he put across. He really put his all into this. So Ryan Hurst is obviously from Sons of Anarchy. He's got the big old beard and
he looks like a biker, like Lobo.
Yeah. He was in Bates Motel as well.
Yeah,
and he was like a crazy old guy with a beard in Bates Motel as well. And he really put all his biker energy into this Lobo character. Maybe it's because he's had the experience from Sons of Anarchy or something, but he went all out, I felt. And so he rocks up, and Superman and him end up having a fight that unfortunately leads to the creation of Parasite. And that Parasite becomes sort of the movie's main villain, and they end up having to. Well, you see Parasite slowly going from this kind of zombie-esque character, and then Parasite becomes massive in the end, towards the end of the movie. And you have a showdown sort of at the end. So my thoughts on it, I'll be honest, are the opposite of Jasmine's. I didn't really enjoy this movie. I didn't like the art. The art to me felt very basic and Superman the animated TV series type style. I kind of felt like we should have moved on from this. I'm probably going to get shot by everybody because I have seen online how well rated this movie is. So,
you're gonna get it. You're gonna get your first beating from me.
It felt to me like a very simple plot. It didn't feel like it was full of any kind of emotion. I don't know. It just felt like they kind of just phoned it in. A lot of these voice actors, like I'll be honest, other than Ryan Hurst, it just didn't feel like any of them particularly cared. That's kind of how I felt, and it just felt so basic, the whole movie. Yeah, so and you know, I don't know, just you know, I would say this could be a kids movie, other than I think there was a swear word once in there, and also
Lobo says shit several times.
Yeah, and then when Brett Dalton's Parasite starts zombie like, I would say that could be a little bit scary for a child. So this is what I don't get. Like, is it aimed at children or is it aimed at adults? Because, you know, for me, it felt like a kid's film other than those things. And like I say, it felt very basic. But go ahead, Jasmine. You can destroy me now.
I will agree with you that everything felt really easy. The whole dynamic with Lex just seemed too easy. Like,
yeah,
they don't really go into any kind of detail about how bad of a person Lex is, but when he's arrested at the beginning of the film, it implies that he, you know, like, he's dirty as in he's corrupt. It doesn't imply all of the things that, you know, we know about Lex, all of the horrible things that we know Lex does. So it's like, is he in prison because of corporate corruption? Like, is that really going to be the angle that we're going with here? And the fact that that Clark goes to him later and is like, hey, I lost my powers, sort of, and I need to get to outer space. Can you help me? And I'm just like, wait, what? Like, I don't, it didn't make any sense to me that you would go and ask Lex, like, hey, dude, can I bum a ride on your on one of your spaceships to go up because I need to get recharged by the sun? Yeah. So yeah, the whole everything feels a little too easy. I can definitely see that. But for me, this film was very reminiscent of the Justice League that I loved as a kid. So when you talk about the animation style, that was one of my favorite things about it, because that's, yes, it is not old school, but it is, I would say, dated, because at this point, the 2000 was 20 years ago. But that was the style of Justice League that I fell in love with. Also, Martian Manhunter is probably my second favorite character from the Justice League. Batman aside, but, you know, Hawkgirl's my favorite, and then I would say Martian Manhunter is my second favorite. So when the first time he opened his mouth and revealed that he was the Martian Manhunter, I recognized the voice immediately as Ike Amade from Mass Effect, because that's my favorite video game, and Ike played Javik in Mass Effect 3. So I already love the voice actor, love Martian Manhunter, and there's a scene where Parasite and Martian Manhunter are fighting, and it looks like Parasite kills Martian Manhunter. I had to pause the film because I got so upset, and I was like, I cannot believe that you just killed off my favorite character. So of course that is not the case, because, you know, Martian Manhunter can project things. So that was a nice surprise. But I mean, I enjoyed the subtleties in this. There's a scene where Clark is kind of, he goes back to his parents and he's talking to them, and he's like, I just don't know what to do. Like, you know, they're starting to get pictures of him in the paper flying around, and he's like, I don't know if I want to do this or if I want to step back. And Pa Kent is like, well, you've got two options. And then Clark kind of finishes the sentence for him, and he's like, yeah, I can step out of the shadows and step up and accept the consequences of that, or I can sit back, be quiet, and do nothing and accept the consequences of that. And I think that's a really valid kind of struggle, especially for someone like Superman that has these immense abilities. Like, people are going to get hurt whether you jump into the situation or not. So the important thing for you to do is to decide. Like, you can't just be neutral. You can't just sit on the sidelines. You have to decide, am I going to be involved or am I not? And with whatever decision you make, you have to stick to it. And I thought that was a very, I mean, kind of subtle, kind of obvious, but it's still one of those messages that rings true. Like, I mean, you just have to pick a side, pretty much. So I did enjoy the interaction between Clark and his parents. I thought that was very sort of sweet. Yeah. I guess would be a good word to describe it. Also, there was a jab. Well, I took it as a jab, but there is a jab in there when Martha shows Clark the costume that she is giving him, the iconic Superman costume that she made from the cloak that he was wrapped in when they found him. And she says, he says it has a cape, and she was like, oh yeah. But she makes reference to Batman when she's talking about the cape that she made for him. And all I could think about was Batman versus Superman and the whole freaking Martha. Where'd you get that name from? And that's what bound Batman and Superman together, was that both of their mothers' names are Martha. So I kind of enjoyed that little connection there. But I would definitely say that my favorite aspect of the movie was the relationship between the Kents, the three of them. They were just really, really sweet to each other.
I did like they kind of set this up where Lois Lane and Clark Kent are. Lois is boasting about how wonderful she is. That's the other thing as well. Lois in this is very arrogant, and so thinks she's above everybody, including Superman. And what she doesn't realize is when she's in the lift elevator with Clark Kent, she's boasting about how she's going to have Superman like desperate for an interview, and how she's going to use her power games and stuff like that. I did think this is quite a good setup, and then basically
blows up in her face.
He shifts, because obviously she doesn't know she's talking to Superman. So and then when she's up there like all playing hard to get on the roof at the end of the movie, and he's like, nah, I'm busy, and shoots off. And then she's so angry, like when she comes back in, and like Clark Kent sticks his head around the corner, oh, how'd the interview go? And she basically fobs him off or whatever, says, oh yeah, I'm just doing my power game stuff, and yeah, like, I mean, I've said a few times, Lois, that Lobo was brilliant. I love the interaction at the end between Lobo, Martian Manhunter, and Superman, where they're all like, yeah, we're the only survivors of each of our planets, and Martian Manhunter's like, oh yeah, everyone died on my planet, and Superman's like, everyone died on my planet, and then Lobo's like, yeah, I killed everyone on my planet, and they're like, what? And then he's like, you should see your faces. And like, so although I didn't love this movie, I would say I liked it, but my probably standout is Ryan Hurst. I think did a fantastic job on this movie. He's amazing voice actor and general just actor. So
now, yeah. Ryan Hurst, in my mind, I loved him in Sons of Anarchy, but in my mind, Ryan Hurst will always and forever be Gary Bertier, who was in Remember the Titans. I love him so much in that movie. So I always forget about Sons of Anarchy when it comes to him, but anyway, it's really funny because him playing Lobo, rolling into, like, literally coming into Earth's atmosphere like a comet on a freaking cosmic motorcycle with bullhorns on the front of it. Yeah. Like, Lobo's entrance was pretty badass. I mean, I have to give him that. Like, it was just kind of like, boom, cosmic motorcycle, spikes on my leather jacket, spikes on my boots. I'm about to bust up in here and kick somebody's ass. Like it was a really cool intro to Lobo.
Yeah. So I'm probably not that bothered if there's a sequel. Would you watch a sequel?
Yes. Yes, I would.
Okay, I'd watch a sequel for this show, but I wouldn't sit down. I wouldn't sit down to watch a sequel by
on
choice.
Your own.
Like, no. I don't know. Like, I'd say it was a good kids movie if you just fast forward past the swear words and the zombie bit. But
yeah, I mean, I think they tried really hard to kind of present a message of, people can make a difference if they find their humanity, and I think, it's an appropriate time for a message like that. But could they have done it a little bit better? Sure, but I did like the just because we're not from here doesn't mean we're bad. Sort of underlying message that it told. Yeah, I thought again, goes back to what you said about everything being too easy, but like the ending where Parasite kind of stops the reactor from melting down and like blowing up. Again, that one was just kind of like, after all this work, like you guys couldn't figure out a way to kill Parasite because he absorbed all of the energy that you threw at him. Then Superman gave his energy to him again so that they could use the Krypton ring against him. But even that wasn't enough to actually kill him. And now it's just kind of, so did he see his family on the bridge and find his own humanity in his monster form? Or was he just so power hungry at the end that he thought that he could gain ability from the reactor? I feel like the ending is kind of unclear and ambiguous. Maybe it's meant to be that way on purpose. Maybe it's meant to leave the viewer, like you get to choose. Like you can decide that, yes, he turned out to be a power hungry jerk and he thought that he could get the power from the reactor, or no, he did find his humanity and he stopped the reactor from blowing up the city. Who can say for sure?
yeah. All right, well, that's the end of that review, in my opinion. I think, I'll say again, I liked it, didn't love it. I think you loved it.
I liked it a lot. I wouldn't say I loved it, but it was, I liked it. I laughed out loud. It was nostalgic in a sense. So I give it one thumb up.
I think, the animation style was definitely nostalgic. So, okay, so we will move on to our second review of this week's episode, to something where I have a very different opinion on. It's DC's Black Label Imprint. So that's their mature imprint, sort of more high quality type book in terms of printing and artistic style. It's what's DC have described as like their premium label. They scrapped Vertigo, which was where they kind of had their more adult content, but that was more independent. They created Black Label, I think it was about a year and a half ago, and under that label, probably 90% of the books that come out of Black Label are Batman-centric. And this book is written by Jeff Johns, art is by Jason Fabok, and this was released on, DC release their books on Tuesdays now. You don't need to know anything about this book before you go into it, at all. Everything is covered within this book. There's a very good intros done in this book. However, if you do want to know anything before you go into the book, there's a few points that maybe additional reading for yourself. There's the Batman the Killing Joke, which came out in 1988, written by Alan Moore, in which Batgirl lost her ability to walk due to the Joker shooting her through the spine, and she is wheelchair bound. However, DC undid that when DC relaunched their continuity in 2011 under the New 52, which then changed the event. So when DC redid the New 52, they scrapped events that happened over the last sort of 50, 60 years of DC continuity, or they altered some of them, and this was one of the ones that they altered. They didn't remove the Killing Joke, they just altered it, and what happened is Barbara Gordon actually did recover after 3 years of paralysis and became Batgirl again. And actually, I remember reading Batgirl when DC's New 52 started, and she was very much a new Batgirl again, sort of learning the ropes. So the other thing worth potentially reading before you pick this up, or if you want to pick this up later on, is Jason Todd, who is the second Robin. Wasn't particularly popular. So back in 1988 as well, they had a phone-in. I don't know if you remember these phone-ins that they used to have, a phone-in and vote. So on whether to kill off Robin or not. So he was overwhelmingly voted to be killed off. So they killed him off in A Death in the Family.
Hands have always been really harsh. You give us the option, we're killing everybody.
Yeah. So the Joker killed him off. And Jason Todd returned, though, in 2005, so they decided to no longer care about that phone-in vote. So they brought him back in 2005 in Batman 638, and it was later revealed that he was brought back due to Superboy Prime altering reality. Again, a lot of these things are always realities being altered. DC just will wave its magic wand to fit the current story. And then this is the big teaser that happened 4 years ago, which has led to this book, was in 2016. Again, sort of a New 52 title, which was Justice League issue 42. During the Darkseid War, Batman steps into the Mobius chair and asks two questions. First question is, who killed my parents? And he finds out that that was Joe Kill killed his parents. And the second question he asks is, what is the Joker's real name? And the Batman is shocked by the answer, and he says, no, it can't be, something like that. We discover later on that when he asked the chair the question, the chair answered, there are three. And that mystery has been up in the air for the last 4 years, and we have never known whether that's actually true until this week, when we picked up the first issue of Black Label's Batman, the Three Jokers, which is the first part in a 3-issue miniseries. And that does answer the question, that there are three Jokers. So I'll be honest, I thought they might string it out a little bit. I thought that actually in this first issue that you might not actually get that answer. So plot points in terms of going through this book, it opens, I quite like how it opens. Batman arrives home in a bad way, and Alfred is helping him, and as he's helping him, sort of, he's sewing him up, stitching aside, and as we're seeing parts of his body, it's going through. It is
beat to hell.
Yeah. So it's almost, his body is almost like a history book of the things that's happened to him, and most famously when Bane broke his back. Again, I think that was in like the late 80s. And it's showing all these different things, and it's very honest. The way this whole book is structured artistically as well is brilliant in terms of they use a lot of cubing. Each page is split up into either sort of 6 panels or 8 panels, or
they're all rectangular or square boxes. There are no angle cuts whatsoever in the entire book.
No like double page spread or anything like that.
Nothing overlaps. All of the panels are very kind of uniform. And it wasn't like, I didn't really realize that was happening until about halfway through the book, and then I kept flipping backward, and it's like, no, this is definitely an intentional layout that they did.
Oh no, I was the same as you. I didn't realize that was happening until halfway through the book, and I was like, oh, actually, this is quite clever. Like, so Batman's whole book, the history of his body, again, unnecessary flashback of how Bruce Wayne's parents get killed. I mean, let's be honest, if you didn't know that, like, why would you pick up this book? So it was unnecessary. Nobody needed to see how Bruce's parents get killed, but again, they've shoved it in there. So.
You know, I can't think of another character where everybody is literally like, "Oh my God, your parents died. We know, we get it." Like,
it just wasn't needed. Like, it just, I get it. So, anyway, so, right, so then they move on to Barbara Gordon, who I would say out of all of the Batman characters has been the most affected by the Joker. Well, I mean, obviously Jason Todd was killed, but she's been so highly impacted in terms of losing her ability to walk, and obviously DC changed continuity to make her Batgirl again, because a lot of people did want her back as Batgirl. Like, you know, there's been other Batgirls over the years, but she is the original Batgirl, and I loved how tough they show her, like, and the fact that they make comments over the TV about people that have restless leg syndrome, and I completely recognize that. I get that, definitely. Like, I struggle to sit still. Like, so, but you can imagine more so someone that was in a wheelchair would have that. And then they do flashes to when she's in the shower, and they show
that bullet wound.
Gunshot. They show the bullet wounds, and they show they show the Joker in the Hawaiian shirt with the hat, which is quite key to later on, really. And obviously her getting shot, and then it introduces us to our third Batman character who's going to be in this, Jason Todd, and again they flash back to him getting beaten, but they skip over all of the complex stuff that you don't need to know really in this story, that he got brought back to life by Superboy Prime. You know, they indicate that he was beaten.
Sort of retcon that and explain how he is still alive after getting beat to hell with a crowbar and then buried.
Yeah, like they say that he got buried in a shallow grave but pulled himself out of it, which he did, but it was years later. I think they're kind of saying here this was moments later or whatever. So yeah, it did happen. It just, the chain of events have been slightly altered in this story just to make it probably easier for people to pick it up. And then once the introductions have done of our three main characters for the three Jokers, which are the three main Batman, Batgirl, and the Red Hood.
Yeah, which they have names. So Batman's Joker is the criminal, Batgirl's Joker is the comedian, and Jason Todd's Joker is the clown.
Right, okay. Yeah, I actually hadn't realised that.
Well, that's just how they kind of label it at the end of each section when they introduce the three characters.
Oh, okay.
It's a little, a little yellow box at the bottom that says the criminal, the comedian, and the clown.
Okay, I didn't put that in place as I was reading it. Okay, yeah, which makes sense. So, and then after the introduction's done, we open up to three bodies laying on the floor that the Joker had attempted to use his sort of Joker laughing gas on to make into sort of more Jokers. And then Batman shows up at the crime scene and he's chatting to Commissioner Gordon, and they talk about how there's been three crimes over the evening by the Joker, and they're saying, which one do you think's the real one? Which one do you think's the real one? And Barbara shows up as Batgirl and obviously interacts with her father as Batgirl, and then they go off in the ambulance. They follow along in the ambulance whilst
because one of the guys is alive.
One of the people who was at the crime scene was still alive, so he gets taken off in an ambulance. And what they don't realise, Batman and Batgirl, is that Jason Todd is in there interrogating one of them. And Jason Todd is a very different sort of Batman. For anyone who's not read Jason Todd before, Jason Todd just doesn't give a shit. So, you know, Batgirl, Robin, Nightwing, all of them, they all play by the rules. And this is probably quite a good setup, really, for anyone that doesn't know Jason Todd. He's in there beating the shit out of this sort of guy who's been given the Joker laughing gas, you know, saying, you know, what did the Joker say to you before he bleached you, etc. And like then when Batman and that, and like, you know, he was not going to be able to help you, you know, you were going to give him a heart attack the way you were carrying on going. So I thought that was quite good, basically, how that first half of the book introduced us to the characters, the crimes, and then chose these three characters getting back, essentially forming like a mini team for this story. And so at this point we've not actually seen the Joker in the book, and then this is what I loved about this rectangular art style they used, about how they showed the raccoon going across the highway, and then the sort of the lorry rocks up, who obviously stole the chemicals from earlier on in the book, which they at the crime scene. And it was really good artist. Honestly, the art in this book is amazing. Like this sort of this double page spread, which is all done in cubes of this lorry, this truck with the chemicals rocking up into the middle of nowhere, and then you just see like one Joker knocking on the door, and I couldn't believe it. They actually did straight away open with another Joker opening the door. So I was like, so there are definitely three Jokers. So no, only because my only worry was this three Jokers thing like a metaphor or something like that before I picked up this book. I was like, so is this three Jokers going to be a metaphor, or are there actually three Jokers? Because I thought if they do have three Jokers, that's pretty cool. But then
the big question becomes, like, if they've had three Jokers all this time, it like you start to question all of the other kind of events that have happened. Like, what again? Where does this book fall in the continuity of everything else? But also, like, how long have these three Jokers been working together? Has this always been the case, or is this a new occurrence?
I guess we've got two more issues to go. I can't imagine that they're going to be able to cover that as in depth over those two issues. But this would probably set up more story. Like,
this was a really good setup for sure, because by the time I finished it, I was like, "Oh, this is the last page." Dang it.
No.
So this is definitely going to be one of those books that I have to pick up again, because I have to know where this thread goes. Like, I gotta know what these other Jokers have planned, and why they're all working together.
The Joker has come across as someone who doesn't play well with others,
right? And who doesn't really plan.
Well, when he does plan, it always feels more short term rather than long term.
Yeah.
Like when he comes up with a heist or a you know, his latest attempt to take Batman down, it always feels a little bit like, you know, I've put this together over 2 or 3 weeks, rather than, this whole setup with three Jokers feels like it's like a long term plan. And so how it ends is Batman, Robin, Jason Todd, Red Hood, and Batman and Batgirl end up going to this aquarium as part of their journey to follow and find out where these chemicals have gone that the Joker's stolen. One of the things I was a little bit taken back by, actually, even from the first page, was that Batman's costume was different. They had the old style logo on it as opposed to the new style. And then when we get to the aquarium, Red Hood does make a little comment about it, saying sort of what's clear is that new Batlight is going to alert anyone that we're here. And so you see like the light come from his chest. So I was like, oh, okay. So they brought back the logo so you can use it as a built-in torch. I was like, okay. Like, I don't know. Maybe it was some sort of decision to go back and alter his costume a little bit for this story to make it a little bit more, I don't know, old school, I guess. I don't know. I prefer the newer style Bat logo that he has, but it is cool for this story to have this old style Bat logo. So they're at the aquarium, and when they're at the aquarium, like, all shit breaks loose, really. Like, I mean, you can see that he's had a good time with these chemicals. He's turned fish into Jokers and stuff like that. Like,
a shark now has a giant smile on its face.
Oh yeah, like, I mean, I've never heard of this character Gaggy before. I'm assuming it's some real old 1950s.
Yeah, I've never heard of that character either. Yeah.
So I thought it was clever that Jeff Johns has might reach into the archives to show us actually, like, there's a lot more history with the Joker. Although it was funny that Gaggy does get eaten by the shark, so that doesn't go too well for him. And so, like, Jason Todd makes good use of his gun at that point, shooting the glass to get the Joker out. So that's actually just, again.
Also, what was funny in that scene was all of those other goons that were with Gaggy had name tags, but their name tags were like boom, pow, bang. Like, all of those comic, like, actions were on their name tags.
Oh yeah, I didn't notice that, like boink and stuff like that. Yeah. Like, no, you've got a good eye there. So this version of the Joker, who's running around with a fishbowl, like, they end up tying up. Batman leaves them and says, you guys see what else is here. Keep an eye on this guy, this Joker, etc. I'm going to go off to the next crime scene. And you can kind of see why this was done under Black Label. The Joker is really playing mind games with Jason Todd, and they keep flashing back to when Jason got hit with the crowbar, and the Joker is really playing with his mind about how actually you were saying you were going to be my Robin, if I saved your life, and he's like, you have become my Robin, whatever. And I just couldn't believe it. He just pulls the trigger, and shoots the Joker right in the head. And you just see the body, fall into the floor. And the look on Barbara's face, she just can't believe what he's done.
Yeah.
And she starts crying. And even he says to her, look, you didn't really want me to save him. Because, you never miss. Because she tries to stop him. And obviously that doesn't go too well. And then you just see that final page of the Joker laying there in his own blood, and Jason standing right above him. And at this point, even he kind of really says what we're all thinking. So he says, "I hope that was the right one."
Yeah.
And I guess in terms of thoughts from this, it doesn't. So they're saying there's three Jokers. But really, is there three Jokers? Is there not just one Joker who's made two other Jokers? And that's kind of my thoughts on this. Is these two other Jokers caused by this laughing gas stuff that he makes? And were these two that went right? And were these other people that he constantly doses the laughing gas his attempts to make more Jokers? Or maybe not. Maybe these are, again, because we know that DC loves to play with the multiverse and Crisis and change its continuity. Maybe because of all the different folds in continuity, maybe we've ended up with three Jokers because every time they've altered reality, maybe we've just ended up with another Joker. We're not going to know the answer from this first issue. There's a lot of questions up in the air, but I want to know.
Yeah, I think you'd said it earlier before we started recording that, like, Joker doesn't play well with others, so it's weird to see this many Jokers together. And the fact that clearly within the three, there is one who comes across as the leader, and the other two recognize that.
They say the boss, don't they?
Yeah. And one Joker is like, well, how come he gets to be the boss? And the other one is like, well, one of us has to be in charge. The way that they talk to each other almost makes it sound like sort of like a split personality or dissociative personality disorder or something like that, because it sounds like a conversation you might have with yourself versus the kind of conversation that you would actually have out loud with someone else. But yeah, I'm interested to see where this goes. Now, I didn't read, other than the Killing Joke, I didn't read any of the other background pieces that you had mentioned earlier, but I have seen the Under the Red Hood movie, the animated feature.
Yeah. And
in that movie, it pretty much covers the same Jason Todd story that they're talking about here, where Joker beats him half to death and sort of leaves him alive. But the whole time, Batman thinks that Jason Todd is dead. And so when he reveals himself, because he's under the Red Hood, it was one of those things where the Joker is like, you know, I used you to the best of your ability because my goal is to antagonize Batman and to cause Batman pain, and you have been doing that for me. And so that's what Joker says in this comic too. When they have him all tied up, he's like, I manipulated you and I got you to do exactly what I wanted you to do, which was, you're basically, I mean, he didn't say it this way, but he's like, basically you're a pain in the ass for Batman because I made you this way.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting. And like, there's an expression that Jason Todd has right before he shoots Joker, where he realizes that the Joker is right, that all this time he has been the one that's been causing Batman all this trouble and all this strife, which you can tell from earlier in the book when Batman has to stop him from beating the crap out of this guy in the back of an ambulance.
Yeah.
So those kinds of stories are what make me love Joker as a villain so much, because without lifting, I mean, other than you beat the crap out of Jason Todd, but you are taking up so much space in his head that you don't even have to terrorize him, because like, he's doing it for you. You know, you've done enough damage that he's kind of playing out according to your hand without you having to do any more work. And I just think those kinds of villains that carry that much weight, oh, they're so great. Those are the best villains. The best villains.
Yeah, the Joker is hands down such an intense and so almost fantastic villain. You know, you could almost be killed by him being used too much, which probably DC does a little bit, uses him too much. But when he does come and when he's used well, like this book here, I mean, this book obviously 4 years in the making, and it's been delayed for various reasons. Actually, is just, I'm glad the delays have happened, because I think it's been so well written, so well structured, and I could feel the emotion from Jason Todd, like when the Joker is pulling at him. It's a shame that Jason Todd reacts, because he did exactly what the Joker wanted. He was like, you know, you are my Robin, and he does react, and you can see it, like you say, in his face. But then when you say you can see it in his face, it's because the artwork throughout this book is hands down fantastic. Like the coloring, the illustration, everything, and just like we've said at the very beginning of this, how they did the cube style, how they thought to go into this book. They must have had a real conversation about how to lay this book out. They want this book to be remembered, like The Killing Joke will always be remembered. The Three Jokers is going to be a book that will be always remembered.
Yeah. Actually, you would be very proud of me, because I have already pre-ordered the hardback collected version that's going to be out in November.
Yeah, this actually is probably a book that will look nice on your shelf as well.
Yeah, so I definitely am going to be getting the hardcover when it comes out for all three that are collected. But like this style of storytelling is why I like Jeff Johns' writing so much. I am never disappointed in the stories that he's writing, which is such a bummer, because I hate that he's wrapped up in all of the drama that's going on with the DC being investigated for all the stuff that they did on set of Justice League with Joss Whedon and all of those things. But it's just like, I mean, anytime I see a DC book and Jeff Johns' name is on it as the writer, I could pick it up without really knowing much about it, and I know that I'm going to enjoy it. Like, that's the kind of, I would trust, I guess, that I have in him as a writer.
I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I've read so many things by him, and he's, you know, that he's a fantastic writer, and he's done so much. I think, you know, Green Lantern. I don't know. I've read, like, every book that I've ever read by him, I've known that I'm going into something that's going to be enjoyable and well written. So, that's all I really have to say about that. Really, he's a writer you can trust. I was really excited going into this. I wasn't disappointed when I picked it up. I will carry on reading it.
Oh, definitely.
So, yeah. So the other thing that racked my brain, sorry, was when he did the Flash Rebirth as well. And actually, so he was actually one of the main instigators of the whole DC Rebirth. So when you had DC's New 52, which initially people liked, and then very quickly everybody sort of hated because it ignored all of the continuity. He was behind the Rebirth and sort of almost like the restructuring of the DC Comics. And he sort of took his whole Rebirth that he had done with Green Lantern and with the Flash and injected that sort of structure of story across the board, like, across every title, but did it more in a one-shot format, and then relaunched the titles and started to bring back previous DC continuity. So I've got a lot of trust for Jeff Johns. I think his writing style and his structure and his planning is something that I really feel comfortable with when you pick up a Jeff Johns book.
Yeah.
So that's it, really. I will carry that on. I will happily pick that book up and carry that on. And what's quite nice is, although I'm a big sucker for, this is TV, comics, I'm a big sucker for things that are long, ongoing stories, like we touched earlier, Sons of Anarchy, 7 seasons, and, there's been so many things that, you've read, Breaking Bad, or I remember one of my favorite comic book storylines that went on for years was Bendis' Daredevil run, and I love stuff like that where it's slow paced, great structured story with an absolute fantastic payoff. But then there are other things like this that are short and sweet, 3, 4, 6 issues, whatever it is, where you pick it up and you know that you've got a beginning, a middle, and an end, and that's it. When you get the end, you're done. So this, for me, is a great miniseries, and I really look forward to seeing how the next 2 issues play out.
Yeah.
One last thing I want to comment on about actually these issues is they're not thin. They're like little books. They're almost like kind of graphic novel size.
Yeah, I noticed the length when I was reading. Because I got mine on digital, but there was a point after, right before they get to the aquarium, where I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like this is way longer than 26 or 32 pages.
Yeah.
And yeah, sure enough. So there's a point where you're reading it where it does feel long, but the payoff at the end is definitely worth it.
Okay. So let's move on to this week's recommendations, which has a theme to it. So I'll start with one of Chadwick Boseman's first ever roles. It was the first thing I ever saw him in. So when I saw the news, I can't help but I don't know if it was one of the first things I did or fairly quickly. I went onto his IMDb. I knew straight away, oh yeah, Black Panther, which I know him from, and the Avengers and Captain America, etc. But I straight away was like, oh, what else has he been in? It was kind of and I knew there's other things I knew that he was in, which I hadn't seen. And then when I looked him up and I saw he was in Persons Unknown, which came out in 2010, which was a 1-season show. It got cancelled. It does end on a cliffhanger, an annoying cliffhanger at that. I loved this show, and I actually even still talk about this show, but I haven't seen it since 2010. And I remember watching this, and I remember being really addicted to this show when it came out. Every week when an episode came out, this was to me like the new Lost or whatever it was. And he's not one of the stars, unfortunately. He is, I would say, more of a secondary character. The 2 stars are Daisy Betts and Jason Wiles, who I guess are still TV actors. They're not in any films or anything like that. And if you look through the cast are all people that you see here and there in bit part roles and TV roles, just more like they might show up in an episode of CSI or Blue Bloods or something like that, or they might get a 6-part stint in a TV show. And actually this is what makes me think even more about Chadwick, how he started in this bit role in 2010 and look where he got to over the last 10 years and how he really did get up there. So I actually went back and I watched the first episode of Person Unknown yesterday, and I was like, oh, the show's amazing. But Chadwick plays an army guy, Graham McNair. The show actually is about several strangers that wake up in a hotel room. Hotel building. You see Daisy Betts' character Janet initially at like a park or a fun fair or something, and then you see her get taken by a couple of men who shove her into a van, and then when she wakes up on a bed, and the next character she meets is Jason's character Joe, who breaks the door down, and then one by one you get introduced to characters in this one floor of this hotel, of which Chadwick's character is one of the characters. And being in the army, his characters does stand out more than the others. One, he's in uniform, and two, obviously he's got that sort of slight air of authority. And they're in this hotel in this town with no other people in, and each episode plays into this mystery of like why they're there, and you see cameras and CCTV of people watching them throughout the show. And there is one other actor that they interact with who is like the hotel receptionist or something like that, but he says, look, I can't help you, etc., etc. The show ends honestly just with another mystery. I won't say any more. If people want to go back and watch it, they can. Unfortunately, it's to be continued. It did feel at the time very much like a summer low budget show. And even though it was a summer low budget show, I still loved it. And you know, if you want to see something else that Chadwick was in that wasn't Black Panther, and if you love mystery shows, I'd recommend going and picking this up.
And in continuing with the Chadwick Boseman love, I recommend, originally I was going to say Black Panther, but I would recommend Get On Up. He is playing the effervescent James Brown, the King of Soul. And it is, first of all, when they announced that they were doing a James Brown film, my immediate thought was, well, who the hell is charismatic enough to play James Brown? And after I watched it, like, Chadwick is so great at bouncing between the boisterous and the ugly side of James Brown that they showed in the film. But also, like, it's so different. If everybody is used to seeing him in Black Panther and in the Marvel movies, then yeah, like Mark suggested, go watch some of the TV stuff that he's done, but also definitely take a look at Get On Up, because for him to have taken on James Brown, he did so great. And it was great fun to watch him in that role, because there are certain parts where, when, you know, some of the concert scenes that they filmed, where you kind of forget that you're watching a movie and it almost looks like you're watching like archive footage. He is that captivating in the role. So Get On Up, James Brown.
Yeah. So you can follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter as Geeks Unleashed.
And you can get us wherever you get your podcasts: Google, Apple, Spotify, every other bajillion of the podcast platforms that exist in the planet. We are probably there. So give us a 5-star rating, give us a like, hit us up.
Thank you very much, and have a good week, everyone.
Bye.